So Brexit would be particularly detrimental for Irish indigenous industry. To the multinationals, it wouldn't really make that much difference because they're well able to hedge currency movements and they're well used to operating in different markets. About half of Irish indigenous manufactured exports go to the UK, and they're very cost sensitive, and they'd be very sensitive to tariff barriers. And obviously they're substantial employers, so it would be detrimental to them. But what a lot of people don't realise, and what hasn't surfaced so much in the literature, is from the perspective of the study of Irish business history, we know that businesses throughout the world jump over whatever barriers governments put in their place. So Brexit would entail presumably substantial trade barriers going up between Britain and the EU. Now, the no side in Britain thinks that's not going to happen, but from the EU's perspective, if they allow Britain to exit cost-free, then really there's going to be a contagion effect, and lots of other EU countries are then no longer going to see the EU as a stable entity, and they will think if things go badly for them in negotiations and so on, that they can threaten to exit, or they may actually exit. So the EU's response is likely to impose substantial tariff or protectionist barriers against Britain. But all throughout history, we've seen that when governments erect protectionist barriers, firms jump over them. So what people have not taken into account is that a British exit, followed by the erection of trade barriers, would lead to a lot of this, what we call tariff jumping foreign direct investment. So Irish firms would go and set up factories in Britain in order to surmount the protectionist barriers that would be in place. But many, many more British firms export into the EU, and they would then see the Ireland as a desirable location from which to export into the EU. So we'd get, I think, quite a lot of British firms jumping over these tariff barriers and setting up factories in Ireland in order to use it as an entry to the EU. The academic work that's been done on the consequences of Brexit have focused on the prospects for Ireland attracting, say, more multinational or European investment, and they say that's likely not to be hugely significant, but what they haven't taken into account is the likely response of British firms that they will jump over these protectionist barriers and set up in Ireland.